Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here today. My name is Lomo Phillips. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Events and External Relations Manager here at the Linked Learning Alliance. Thank you for joining us for Keep Us Linked, Young People Share Insights on the Student Experience during COVID-19. There we go. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. First, this session is being recorded, so please note that everyone is automatically muted upon entering, and we ask that you stay muted unless you have been called on. If you're joining by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute or unmute yourself. If you're unable to hear or your internet begins running slowly, please turn off your camera as it will help you to watch the program smoothly. You can message me, Lomo, directly at any time if you need technical assistance. There are multiple opportunities throughout the session for you all to engage with the panelists. You can choose the chat function, which can be done by clicking on the chat button on the bottom right of your screen. You can use chat to share comments or questions throughout the discussion, and Linked Learning Alliance staff will be monitoring that to highlight key comments and questions as they may come up. To help smoothen the flow of questions during audience Q&A, please use the raise hand button under reactions when you have a question that you would like to say aloud, and we will then unmute you so that you may ask your question. As you listen to our panelists, feel free to use the emojis under reactions as you feel compelled to better engage with the conversation. And lastly, to go over the agenda for our session, we'll have about 40 minutes of moderated discussion from our panelists today, and there will be 2 opportunities for audience Q&A. Now, let's begin the discussion. Anne?
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Lomo. My name is Anne Stanton, and I'm the president of the Linked Learning Alliance. Really pleased to welcome you all today. We have the opportunity to work with thousands of young people across this state, and we're really pleased to have the chance to introduce you to a few of them. We've gotten to know them through linked learning. It's an educational approach that ensures all young people have the opportunity and support that they need to stay connected to purpose, to their passions, and to their aspirations. And we believe that keeping young people connected to that sense of purpose really lies in communities embracing the and. Because when we combine college and career preparation, then we really position all young people for lifelong success. For so many young people, many people are facing just an or. It's either college ready or career ready. And we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to experience the plus of the and. Because when combined, all of these experiences, college ready academics, real world learning and applied opportunities, connection to career and industry partners and post-secondary partners is where the magic happens. The relationships, the learning reinforces each other, and it creates a much stronger foundation for lifelong success. And 10 years of independent research shows that leaning into the and, uniting college and career and partnerships, create learning results that are actually remarkable outcomes, some of which you're seeing on the slide, and we're more than happy to share more with you in follow-up. But I'm really excited to start today's conversation with 4 incredible students from districts across this very diverse state, all of whom are living many of the issues that are top of mind for all of you as policymakers and leaders in California in this time like absolutely no other. And each and all are navigating their senior year and soon a transition to their next step to college and career. And each, I think, has some really invaluable truths and insights to share with us. So let me start by introducing you to this incredibly talented and accomplished group of young people that represent pathways all across the state of California. So panelists, I'm going to ask you if you would give a brief introduction of yourselves. Paul, I'm going to start with you.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Corsillor. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm currently a senior attending the School of Business and Tourism, which is in the Miguel Contreras Learning Complex. So I'm currently representing my school and my school district, LAUSD.
think Aaron's next.
Sorry about that. Hello, my name is Aaron Morales, and I'm a senior at Porterville High School in the Porterville Unified School District. I'm a member of the Porterville Academy of Health Sciences, and I use he, him, his pronouns.
Hi, everybody. I'm Olivia Ross. I'm a senior at Cabrillo High School, and I'm part of their Academy of Law and Justice, and that's in Long Beach Unified School District, and I love it there.
Hey, my name is Marcel. I'm a senior at Fremont High School, and I'm a part of the Media Academy, and I'm a part of the Oakland Unified School District, and I use he, him pronouns.
Terrific. Thanks, everybody. And we're really excited to have you, Paul, Aaron, Olivia, and Marcel with us today, sharing your time and day with us. And joining our panelists to give some more context to this conversation are an incredible education administrator leading our work in Oakland Unified School District, and an incredibly passionate and committed industry partner working with one of our pathways in Los Angeles Unified School District. So can you both just take a minute to introduce yourselves? Mateen, I'll start with you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mateen Abdul Kawi. I am the high school network superintendent in the Oakland Unified School District.
And Becca?
Hi, everyone. My name is Becca Sanchez. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior consultant at CGI, which is a local company, and we are an industry partner with the STEM Academy of Boyle Heights.
Great, thank you. And now that everyone's met our panelists, we can begin our discussion. So I'm going to start with one question for all of our student panelists. All of you are in your senior year of high school. So I would love it if you could each reflect on what your high school experience has been like, certainly in the last 2 years, which has been a time like no other, and how that experience has influenced your aspirations for the future. So I'm going to start with Olivia on this one.
Awesome, thank you. So if I had to describe my high school experience, I think the one word to describe would be really unique. With linked learning, I've been able to do things like go on field trips, that I've got to visit the USC Law School, got to go to different courthouses, and it's been amazing for me because it really helped to show me like what the law field's really like. Because before I saw things on TV and I was like, oh, that's really cool, but I wonder if that's really like what it's really like. And I've got to see that it is different from what I originally thought, but I've really fallen in love with the law field, and I've been able to combine that with my passion for technology through different classes that we have, like our mock trial course and like our introduction to law course. So that's been amazing for me. And there's been a lot of challenges in high school, but overall, I think I've had some really fun times and I wouldn't have exchanged it for the world.
Thank you. Aaron?
Hello, I like standing up while I talk, so forgive me for that. If I could use 2 words to describe my high school experience, it would be rigorous and fulfilling. Rigorous in that it pushed me to be the best possible student that I can be. Between CTE classes and college classes and traditional classes with medical integration, I became more career ready and college ready. On top of that, my high school experience has introduced me to fields that I hadn't even considered. A good example would be the field I'm pursuing now, public health. When I walked into medicine, I had no idea that was even an option, but because of the integration into traditional classes like social studies and math, here I am learning about all of those different topics. But I would say the most fulfilling part of it would be the community service and the internship opportunities that have been offered to me. It's made me a better, more empathetic person, and it's given me the leadership skills to be able to talk to you all today. So for that, I'm incredibly grateful, despite all the challenges. Finally, my high school experience has been rigorous and fulfilling, but more than that, I would describe it as transformative.
Okay, Marcel, to you.
My high school experience, it's been good overall. While in high school, I feel like I was introduced to like a lot of opportunities through scholarships and like college ready programs. And while I was in like high school, I was able to take like a lot of college classes and get college credit.
Hey, Marcel, I think you might be on mute.
Hello, can y'all hear me now?
Thanks, Marcel. We were losing you for a little bit, so.
Okay. I said my high school experience, it's been good. While I was in like high school, I was introduced to like a lot of opportunities. I was able to take internships and like college ready programs, and I joined Upward Bound. And while in Upward Bound, I took Psychology 1A, and that it introduced me to what I wanted to study in when I go to college, and that's psychology. So that was good.
Great. Paul?
So thank you very much for that question. So I guess I would describe my high school experience as an adventure filled with discovery and growth. I was able to discover myself, my passions, and what I'm truly interested in after high school. So as Olivia, Marcel, and Aaron said, the linked learning curriculum allowed us to become both college ready and career ready. We were given numerous experiences to explore our academic and personal interest in and outside of school. So in my case, we had field trips to Bakersfield and Pasadena to represent our school in a virtual business program. And at the same time, we were able to immerse ourselves within a world full of professionals. So I would say my high school experience was indeed fulfilling and an adventure.
So what I hear from all of you is these experiences that some of which are in the classroom, some are outside of the classroom, really rich and sort of experiences that combine all sorts of connections, right? And I think that is unique for a lot of young people. So thanks a lot for, I think, sharing that in such really clear terms for folks. So Aaron, I want to follow up and ask you a specific question that I know is on everybody's mind. How has the pandemic and COVID-19 impacted your junior and senior year experience, right? And what concerns do you have on the impact of that on your post-high school plans?
So I would be lying if I said that the COVID-19 pandemic hasn't been devastating. I live in a small rural city, right? I don't even think I can call it a city. It's very small. And because of that, the freshmen and sophomores and in my middle school experience, we kind of grow up looking forward to the junior and the senior experience. It's a rite of passage for us, especially in a town where the most interesting place is a pizza parlor that's kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, but much worse and considerably more expensive. So because of that, when it was all stripped away, all of the relays, all of the sporting events, all of the choir events, and also just the air of haughtiness that I know a lot of seniors get during these types of years, right? You're a senior now, not a freshman. It was all stripped away. And it's particularly hard for me because when I was a freshman and sophomore, I was mentored by a lot of the upperclassmen, the seniors and juniors. And now, because of how classes are formatted, I just don't feel I have that opportunity to do it anymore. And I feel like the younger students are missing out on a lot of the leadership opportunities that would have been available otherwise. We haven't done field trips, which was quite hard. We haven't done as much community service, which was quite hard. Internships and community service are trying to start back up again, but since we're the health pathway, obviously, we have to be the most cautious out of all of them. So we're putting the student safety first, but I just feel that a lot of the opportunities that were there suddenly aren't, and that's very hard for me. As for my future plans, I don't think that it will affect it that much. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to go through this, that we'll get out of this and that we'll become stronger because of it, that we'll become stronger out of the lessons that we learned. But what makes me the most worried is the effect on the younger students. That's what concerns me the most. Other than that, I'm optimistic for the future.
Thank you. I think that you have been having an experience, right? It's perfect storm that no other set of young people is ever probably going to have, right? So thank you for sharing in a really personal way how that impacts you in Porterville. And it's really, I think there's an isolation to it. And I think also the commitment that you all have, right, to supporting the next generation that's following you. So I really appreciate that. So I want to talk, just shift a little bit. Erin, can you talk a little bit about how what this has been like in a very different environment in Oakland, a very urban environment? What's your experience been like over the last couple of years with COVID, and how has it impacted your high school experience and your plans for next, kind of next year? Marcel, I think I was meaning, that was for you, Marcel. Sorry.
Oh, okay. What was the question?
I just wanted you to reflect on a little bit of what Aaron reflected on about his experience in this last couple of years of high school, given a COVID, and how has it been in Oakland for you?
One of the biggest challenges I faced while transitioning into virtual online is I had to fix my schedule with everything. So while in school, I was working, I had a job and an internship at the same time, and it all worked out. My schedule was good. But once we moved to online, hello?
Hi, we hear you now. One of the issues,
sorry about that.
hey, the internet connectivity is real, Marcel, and it's part of the issue that everybody's facing. So we're living. So thank you.
One of the biggest struggles I had while transitioning into online school was I had to adjust my schedule. So in school, I was working and I had an internship, but once the pandemic started, my internship was cut short because it was in a hospital. So it wasn't safe to really be in the hospital. And then the classes, I wasn't taking all my classes the same day, and it wasn't in the morning classes no more, it was in the afternoon. So it kind of affected my work schedule. So I had to adjust my work schedule and my school schedule. And it was kind of a struggle when it first started to adjust it and get used to the new times. But I got used to it. So that was one of my biggest struggles I faced while transitioning into online school.
So Olivia, I imagine that you share some of the experiences, right, that Erin and Marcel talked about, but you have your own, I'm sure, in Long Beach. So can you also talk a little bit about how the pathway experience has helped you deal, if it has, with some of the challenges that you've had to face in learning in a virtual environment?
Sure. So for me, my pathway is the law pathway. So one thing that our pathway has been really good at is continuing to have guest speakers just like we would normally, so that we don't feel like, oh, we're losing out on our complete experience. We're still getting to interact with professionals, even though it's virtual. It's not exactly the same, but we still feel like we're gaining something from those professionals. We're still networking. And another thing that's been big for me with my pathway is that our teachers have been really good about making sure that they have office hours so that we know how to contact them if we need anything. We don't feel so alone. We've done a lot of group projects so that we don't feel like we're in this all by ourselves, because even on Zoom, you don't often see people. Even if you do, it's not the same as seeing them in person. You don't get to have those just conversations. So our teachers have worked to make sure that we have group projects and we get to still interact with people, make sure that we're not feeling like we're alone, like we have people to talk to. And I think that's something that I've really appreciated, is feeling like I can talk to my teachers and fellow students. I don't feel like I'm isolated in my house. I feel like I'm still going to school. I still feel like I'm mentally there. So that's a great thing for me and for our pathway. And I know for a lot of other students, that's been something big.
And we're gonna talk to the partners that have helped you feel less isolated in a minute. But it really sounds like that is a purposeful action that the adults have taken to support young people, and that's an incredible, I think, an incredible part of the pathway experience. Paul, you all have touched on, the power of the projects that integrate learning from academics to a career focus and the way that's applied. And can you just talk about what that has been able to do in terms of kind of connecting to your passions and your motivation, and also how have you been able to stay connected to those projects and passions, right, during the pandemic over the past at least year?
All right, so to start it off, so my school, our pathway is business and tourism, and we have this project that we do every semester, which we call project-based learning, or PBL for short. So just to give you a brief background of PBL, so basically each semester we would be assigned a group, and that group would be assigned to complete a certain task, which really depends on the theme of the semester. So I guess one project that really stood out to me was the project that we did back in the spring semester of my junior year. We were tasked to create a tour bus company that would allow visitors to explore and discover the city of LA, which I guess was very interesting. So for my group, we created a haunted themed tour bus company, which was definitely a great experience since I was able to learn how to write a business plan, how to calculate for financials, how to know if the company is meeting our profit margin. And at the same time, it was fun since I never realized how much haunted restaurants or places I've been to when I lived in LA for such a long time. So regarding that, I feel like I've connected that with my passions in business, specifically the field of accounting, because I was able to immerse myself in the field that I envisioning of entering once I grow up. And I feel like it's really helped me become college ready and career ready because I've learned how to present well. I've learned how to become a professional in front of like different people in the business world, and at the same time, it has helped me grow as a student, professional, and like an individual.
Great. So thanks. So I'm going to take a moment to transition because I want to try to get, as we said in the beginning, we want this to be interactive, right? So we wanted to have a period of question and answer from the participants that are here. So I want to, if questions are coming up, I think Loma's going to encourage people to raise hands, and we'll answer some of those questions. While we're waiting, I'm going to just make sure that I'm going to ask one that we can start off with, right? For all panelists, right? I think in the governor's proposal, there is significant amount of money to address student learning loss that has happened because of the pandemic. And so some of the proposed strategies are, summer school, extending the school year, extending the school day, providing tutoring, providing additional support. So can folks, just a couple of students, just talk about what strategies would you offer that you think would help the most with that learning loss that a lot of people have had, not being in school every day? Anybody? Thanks, Olivia.
All right. So, learning loss has been a big thing, and I know that. I think one thing that I personally think would really help is, yes, increase tutoring and support. Like at my school, we had days that were specifically just for you to get help with whatever assignments you needed to make up or whatever you wanted to catch up with. And I think that really helps students because it gives them time where they're not like, oh, I have so much stuff to get done. I can't focus on tutoring right now, because it gives them a defined time to just focus on that. You don't have to stress out about other things. And I think that really has helped people.
Other thoughts, Aaron?
Oh, yes. Well, one strategy I was considering that was possible was a better transition into online learning if this pandemic is to continue. The bottom line is we can't use traditional learning methods in an untraditional time. We have to use new and innovative technology. I know for myself, the college classes that I'm taking in the pathway, they're suited for online learning because they're online classes. They're online college classes that were designed for that. And that design is very intentional, and it helps students learn better than with traditional interaction. I would also like to touch on Olivia's point. the increased tutoring would be a fantastic idea because a lot of students, they need more support from the teachers. Even in virtual learning, that teacher-student connection is paramount. That's the most important part, at least in my experience. So I would say that a better transition into online learning classes that are designed to be online and a more firm teacher-student connection.
Great. So wonderful, wonderful suggestions so far. Marcel, do you have any, or Paul, that you wanted to add to that mix of what would you say to policymakers and about how we address learning loss?
I guess in my case, I agree with both Olivia and Aaron, considering that we need a better transition from offline learning from before the pandemic to this untraditional virtual learning that we have right now. So I guess what I'm suggesting that we could do would be to invest more in materials that can be used to ensure that our students are learning and understanding the lessons that they're having at school. So it's not just about the lectures, it's more about the students understanding what they're learning about. It's more about them knowing how to apply these lessons into real life, which is why I really think that we should invest more in those educational materials that we could use in the classroom and outside of the classroom.
Excellent. Marcel, is there anything you wanted to weigh in with?
Yeah, I agree with what Olivia said. I feel like tutors would be a great benefit to the kids because it gives them more one-on-one time, because being online is, I don't know, I don't feel the most comfortable being online. So I feel like if I have a tutor with me, I can have more of a one-on-one conversation and get help with what I didn't understand with in class.
So thank you. That was really helpful. I'm going to keep going forward with some questions for the panelists as we're waiting for folks to raise their hand. So encourage folks to do that and have a dialogue with these amazing young people. So I want to hear a little bit from each of you, and Paul, I'm going to start with you. Can you talk a little bit about the supports you've received? We talk about what we need, then we need a lot more. And I think you all have given amazing suggestions. Talk about what you've received from your school and Pathway during this time that has been helpful for you. And feel free, all of you, to answer that too.
Thank you very much for that question. So in regards to that, I really do believe that my school has provided me with the necessary support, considering that I'm already in my senior year and I'm about to make one of the biggest transitions I'm gonna have to face throughout my life. So my teachers have office hours on certain days of the week. So every student is allowed to join that as long as they inform the teacher, so they can have additional academic assistance, professional guidance, and for other causes. Some of my teachers have also created educational groups to inform us and give us additional support. So we've used platforms such as Google Classroom, Schoology, and GroupMe in order to provide additional support for students who need additional help for their academics, for their grades. And it also serves as a way for us to stay connected in such hard times like these.
Yeah, and Aaron, go ahead.
Oh, sorry if I cut you off.
Nope.
I really want to emphasize just how great the Pathway is for teacher-student connection. One of the major recurring themes I'm hearing in this conversation is how teacher-student connections must be reinforced. And I feel that has been a success, at least in my experience in my Pathway. This last semester was difficult for a variety of reasons, not the least of which was the college application process. But because of the support I received and the preparation I received from my Pathway advisors and my teachers, I was able to apply to several colleges, and I was actually admitted into one. That wouldn't have been possible had it not been for their support. I'm going to just shout out a couple of them: Miss Oddsailor, Miss Ms. Savala, Dr. Salas, these are teachers within the academy that have supported me throughout my entire high school experience. And because of that, here I am. I'm on my way to college. I'm ready for the future. And I attribute that to the school, to the pathway. I attributed that to my teachers.
And I'm sure that that is an enormous shout out. And I can't imagine that they are looking at you and not being extraordinarily inspired by everything that you've accomplished as well. So Olivia, I'm going to ask you one more question before we turn to the next segment, because we've talked a lot, and I think Erin and Paul were really eloquent about the connection to teachers and how that outreach and that purposeful meaning of keeping young people connected to their purpose is there. Can you talk a little bit about how you've connected? You know, you're a high school student. How do you keep connected, right, to your peers and your community of social kind of connection, which is so important in high school? And how have the pathways helped you with that? And how has the school helped you with that?
Yeah, so similar to Erin's experience, there's similar to Paul's experience. My teachers have had office hours. So that's one way that we can keep connected with them, because we can get that extra help. We can also talk to them about, like, you know, if we have questions like about college or about, you know, things. And this kind of addresses one of the questions that was in the chat, because a lot of people's ideas of what they want to do after school is changing. So because of COVID, and there's a lot of worries and anxiety. So it's good to have those teachers that we can talk to. It doesn't even have to be about academics. It can be about, gosh, my parents are dealing with something and I need just somebody to talk to. So it feels like you're not alone. They can help guide you. Like, I've talked to my law teacher about a million things about careers and colleges, and just to find out what he thinks, because I like to have somebody else's input, because I can do research and different things, but it's easier to have somebody else's opinion or to just have somebody else's input, because sometimes it's good to have another perspective. So that's been really useful for me as a student.
Marcel, anything you want to add?
No, that was all good.
Okay, great. So I'm going to thank you for that and your really candid responses, and we'll get back to questions we might have missed in the chat in a little bit. But we just spent a lot of time talking about the fantastic teachers and partners that and administrators and industry partners that have kept young people connected during the hardest time that one can imagine for high school students, and particularly juniors and seniors, right? So I want to turn the attention to the fantastic educator and industry partner that are with us today, and are making sure that everybody stays connected in every way, every day. So a few questions. I'm going to start with you, Mateen, if I can. And, you know, Oakland Unified School District has wall-to-wall pathways. And can you share a bit of context for how and why the Oakland community embraced linked learning and pathways wall to wall?
Sure. Thank you for that question, Ann.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and you students, you guys are amazing. I have to say that. So I think one way to look at it is, imagine the experience you just heard from those 4 students. They can articulate and clearly share with you the wonderful experiences that they've been having in high school as a result of their linked learning experience. Then imagine me, Ann, Lomo, Sarah. We didn't have that experience. We were in the same high school doing the same thing, but not being exposed to careers, not being having industry partners come to our schools, not going to Facebook and Google and community-based organizations. Our learning environment, our experience in high schools would be very, very different. And that's how it was in Oakland. We've had pathways in Oakland for 20 years, but maybe a third, a quarter, 20% of the students in any school would be engaged in a pathway. And those students would have the experience you just heard about, and the other 80, 75% would not. So it was really a data-driven decision. Many of our graduation rate for students in pathways was in over 80%. For those not in pathways, under 60%. The college going rate for students in pathways was much higher than those not in pathways. So it was a clear and easy decision to make because we knew that those scholars that were engaged in pathways had a richer, more valuable learning experience than those that didn't.
So I'm gonna say something that you've heard me say to you because it was probably one of the most inspired things I've ever heard from an educator, because it was so deeply ingrained in everything you are. And you talked to me about how what the Oakland story is really inspiring as a community story. But you also talked about the individual sort of impact it has, right? And you just started to talk about that now. But in your role formerly as a principal and your role now as a leader of High School Network, which is fantastic, you know, all of the emotional supports, the academics, the integration of career and college, right? You said to me once, and you're going to be so mad at me for bringing this up again, but I'm going to do it anyway, that you believed that what you heard that was most important for you is that young people felt seen in pathways in Oakland. And can you speak about that and what that means to a young person's development when they feel seen?
Sure. Thank you for reminding me of that conversation we had many years ago. Yeah, and it is important. In the school, in a lot of our schools are large, 1,600 students, 1,700, 1,800 students. And it's easy for a scholar to get lost in that environment. Linked learning, academies, pathways create an opportunity for every student to be seen. So what we do is we create these smaller learning communities where a small group of students support and hold a small group of students and stay with them and stay connected to them for at least 3 out of their 4 years of high school. And during that time, we create structures, we create systems that make it possible for every student to be seen, to be heard, and to be cared for. The teachers meet regularly in what we call professional learning communities, where they sit down and look at their data and say, well, looks like brother Aaron is doing well. He's engaged, he's been in class every day. Good job, Aaron. But it looks like brother Mateen is struggling a little bit. He's missed a class, he's missed a couple of assignments. Which one of our team, what is the plan that we're going to in place to get Mateen back on board? And then someone else stands up and says, well, I'll call the family, make sure everything's going well at home, see if there's any supports we can provide there. Maybe we'll make a referral to the wellness center to make sure Mateen is getting the additional supports that he needs. But as a result of those intimate relationships, not only just between students and adults, but among students themselves, because often that support, that being seen, is actually being seen by other students because you've been connected with those students for years now. By your second semester, your third semester of being in the environmental pathway, the public health pathway, you get to know each other much better. You've gone on field trips together. You've toured Facebook together. You've been to East Bay Mud together. And now your relationships are stronger. So when Mateen is struggling, Sister Olivia might be the one that points it out to one of the other teachers and say, hey, I was talking to Mateen yesterday. He didn't seem like he was doing well. Maybe somebody should check in with him. And that's a key component of linked learning, relationships. And it's relationships between students as well as between students and adults.
Thank you, Mateen. One of the things that I want to ask you, because the educators have all been in the midst of this unprecedented perfect storm for the last year. Why? And we heard what really, really important, I think, perspective of young people about what do they need? What do we need to do more of? And answer that question for everyone. And also, why does it matter so much more now? Like, you've been involved with, you've watched what's happened over the last year. Why are those relationships and those connections more important than ever now?
So we all know that there is an unprecedented attack on everyone who is not white, male, Anglo-Saxon, right? And everyone else, and that's literally everyone on this call, everyone in our classrooms, regardless of what school district you're in, regardless of the demographics. Our students need to be held in ways that they've never been held and supported before. And the one place that our students can be held the most intimately and the most effectively are our schools, because COVID is creating havoc on our families in ways that we can't imagine, like ways that our students know deeply and intimately, but the adults who are not in those families, who don't have children that are experiencing, we can't really even begin to articulate what's happening. Our schools have to be places where we wrap our services and our literal arms around them and give them the support and love that they need. The beauty of linked learning is it makes them feel like they're much more than what the message that they keep getting in TV and from other avenues, right?
Mhm.
They get to be seen and begin to see themselves as environmentalists. They get to see themselves as public health workers, as artists, as engineers, as coders, when everyone else around them is telling them that they're not that. So what school does is give them a counter narrative to what they hear elsewhere. And our job is to make sure that they're not only provide a rigorous academic environment, career technical education. Honestly, what schools and linked learning has to continue to do is show our students love and respect. Like this conference would have been perfect, and it is perfect. But if you only heard from students, that's all you would have needed to hear from. That is all you would need to hear from, because they know better than anything we can say or do.
Thank you, Martina. And Becca, I think that I want to underscore the fact that, you know, the experiences young people have and the richness and the connection that's being seen is because of the partnerships with industry, and the folks that engage, not because they have to, but because they really believe and want to for the future of this state. So talk a little bit about how CGI has been able to engage with STEM Academy of Boyle Heights, which is an incredible pathway, and as in an ongoing purposeful way. How are things changed for you, and how has it shifted for you as you move to virtual instantiations of those connections with young people?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Anne, for the question. So for about 4 years now, going on 5, we have been engaged with LAUSD and specifically the STEM Academy of Boyle Heights, gold certified linked learning pathway. So we collaborate with educators in multiple ways through events and curricula development, serving on the advisory committee, and most recently helping celebrate the gold certification with linked learning. So our flagship event every year is to put on an annual STEM camp where we provide an intense half-day camp with multiple lesson plans that teach students new tech skills and introduce them to industry professionals from CGI, such as myself, who do this kind of work as a career. And because of our local presence, we're just a few miles away from the STEM Academy. And because we also have resources as a larger company, thankfully, we're able to come on site every year with 20 to 40 IT experts who serve as instructors plus equipment for the anywhere from 50 to 100 students that participate in our camps. So our volunteers have worked on a number of projects for all kinds of clients across the US and globally. So it's really cool to connect their experiences to students who are learning in the classroom, as well as the students' personal ambitions and passions. So we work with educators to create lesson plans, which are rooted in rigorous academics and focus on anything from programming a robot to go through a maze, programming Raspberry Pi computers, and physically building a PC monitor, which is really cool to see. And these are all lesson plans that we've done hands-on in the classroom. And something else that we do that is really cool is to do mock interviews. So we do one-on-one sessions with students to give them a chance to practice discussion of their skills, their passions, and also get feedback on cover letters and resumes that they prepare ahead of time. And it's been great to have this relationship because students very much enjoy this camp every year. And it helps our team stay connected to our community locally and the amazing local talent that we have right here in LA in our local schools. So our company looks forward to it every year, and our team finds the experience to be incredibly meaningful. It's the favorite thing that we do as a company, and every year, at least once a month, I get questions from people asking, hey, when is the next STEM camp? Or I have an idea for a lesson plan we can do, or can I sign up ahead of time to be a volunteer teacher? So that's really cool to see. And this year, because of COVID, we had to switch to an online forum instead of being able to come physically onto campus. But we were able to work around that, and we were able to do a fully remote STEM camp this year via Zoom. So we were still able to do the one-on-one mock interviews. This year, we built a mobile app completely online. And we even did our first ever hackathon where students took what they learned from that lesson plan to build a mobile app, present it to a panel of judges, and then the students won prizes for their work, which was really cool to see them create something new of their own and show it off and be proud of it. And just a quick shout out to school administrators who were incredibly important to this process. Every year, it's always a pleasure to work with them. And I always appreciate all of the time they put in. And this year, because we had to coordinate over Zoom and handle logistics a bit differently, the importance of the school administrators and the role that they play in making these kinds of things happen was even more obvious. So ultimately, we've been able to continue this collaboration through COVID, thankfully, and teach students new skills and technologies, introduce them to real world scenarios, and give them a chance to practice talking about themselves for a job or internship. So at the end of the day, the goal is for students to learn, but also just to have a fun time doing it. And it's really great because we end up learning from the students as well.
So I was going to ask you both, what impact has your work had on students and communities? And I think it's really, really obvious in the voices of the young people of the incredible impact that it has had on each and every one of them. And want to transition to asking them a couple more questions. But I want you both to just reflect a little, and I'll come back. And if you could add in the chat, like, how does this affect the communities in which you work? Matina and Becca, how do you see it changing the communities in which you're working, the kind of partnerships that you've had? And so now I'm going to switch over to this remarkable group of young people. And I want to ask you, looking forward, we've talked about some of the challenges over the past year, but you're also looking forward, right, to what's next, whether graduation, college, other milestones. So let's talk about what are you optimistic about for your future? So Paul, I want to start with you.
All right, so first of all, I'd like to say that I'm truly grateful for all the teachers and the faculty and the staff that have had my back throughout like my years of high school. So Mr. Cole, Ms. Y. Salazar, and Mr. Icky, and the other teachers that are here. I would like to thank you guys for everything that you've done for our class. So basically, I'm really excited to start college this year. So I've recently gotten my first college decisions during the past 2 weeks, which is really like amazing and really motivating for me. Like I'm ready to start a new chapter of my life, and I know that I'll be able to discover more about myself and see what the world has to offer. So I'm really optimistic about what awaits for me and every other student in this Linked Learning Alliance in the future.
Olivia, what are you optimistic about?
I think what I'm really optimistic about is kind of the same. I'm excited about starting college. That's something that has been on my mind for a long time. But another thing I'm optimistic about is like helping people. Like recently I started this scholarship list that basically it's just a list of scholarships that I provide to people, and it's really reached a lot of people, a lot more people than I thought it would reach. And I'm so excited to keep pursuing that and keep helping other people to find things like scholarships and opportunities, because that's something I wish that I would have been able to find sooner.
Great. Aaron?
Okay, sorry, I had to get off because I'm just bursting with excitement. So I already said that I got accepted into college. Here's the kicker. I got accepted into Claremont McKenna College through the Quest Bridge program, which means that it's all paid. Oh, I'm so excited about that. I wouldn't have done it without the academy and the teachers and the faculty, but I'm really looking forward for that. But that's not actually what I'm most excited for. See, over the winter break, a peer of mine, his name's Vincent, and we were kind of discontent with how mental health was being treated. So in our own initiative, we wrote a proposal for the academy lead, and we presented it to her, and it approved. And what's going to happen on February 3rd is a virtual mental health conference where we will bring in an organization called Teen Truth to talk about mental health, its effects, and how to deal with it. And we think this will be a great way to address it, the growing mental health crisis that's going on right now. And it wouldn't have been possible with the Pathways themselves. We actually got introduced to the program through the Pathways Ambassador program, which is all of these different representatives coming from different schools to meet and talk and learn about the different issues that are happening and the commonality. So we're super excited that I got approved. We're going to have a second session that's a leadership conference for the juniors and seniors so that they can pass on the lessons onto the freshmen and sophomores. And we're just very excited that the teachers, the faculty, the academy supported us, had our backs, and now we're full steam ahead.
Fantastic, Aaron. And not only did they have your backs, you had the backs of your peers. Congratulations, that's extraordinary. Marcel, how about you? What are you optimistic about?
Okay, can y'all hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm most optimistic about having an in-person graduation because I really want to walk across the stage when I graduate. Like, I don't want to graduate on Zoom. I want to have my family there when I graduate. And I'm also optimistic about college. Like, I want to attend college in person. And yeah, I hope more college acceptance letters come my way. And I'm optimistic about that. And that's it.
Well, I have to say, we're really optimistic hearing from all of you about our collective future, right? So I've got to say, we feel a lot better as a result of hearing from all of you today. Let me take a pause. Lomo, can we ask for additional questions from participants that are here with us for either this incredible group of young people or for Martina or Becca?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can move on to audience Q&A.
Great. So, and while we're queuing that up, and we're not letting you off the hook, audience, so put some chat in the chat. So I'm going to ask, we're here with a lot of policymakers, and I'm going to start with any of you, Paul, Olivia, Marcel, Aaron, who want to answer this. If you could emphasize one thing today for all the policymakers here that you think education could be improved in California by doing now and post-COVID, what would you say to them? Here's your chance. Anybody want to start? Oh, Aaron, go for it.
Yeah, so another common theme that I'm saying talked about through this entire conference is the importance of teacher-student connections, making sure that students are seen. And I think that if we can encourage that post-COVID to a greater extent, we'll not only see a rise in educational attainment, but we'll also see a rise in civic involvement, integrity, and empathy for one another. I was in a call with one of my teachers. We go to a lot of one-on-one calls because she always says that if you ever need something to talk about, come with me and I'll help you with it. And I was at a call with her and she said, like, you know, Aaron, it's not so much about purveying education anymore as teachers. It's more about the relationships we form with students. That's where we break through. And I couldn't agree more. That connection, it's what's gonna make or break a student. It's that connection, that feeling that you have with a community, that you're part of a pack, a tribe, and that someone has your back. That's the most important part. And I would love to see policymakers make sure that that gets done so that students know someone always has their back.
Fantastic. Anything that Olivia or Paul or Marcel want to add? Otherwise, I'm going to turn to Martine and Becca and say, what would you say to policymakers? So they're working on that. Olivia, did you have something you wanted to add?
I think it's kind of two things, but they're kind of related. Internships and scholarships. I think that those are two things that help students to get into the field they want to. Because if you have scholarships, you can go to a college you want to go to, you can study what you want to study, and that's something that's been big for people. Like for me, getting scholarships has meant the difference between going to a college that I really want to go to and going to a college that I'm excited about, but it's not exactly my dream college. And internships, again, you get a chance to get into your field. You get a chance to really see what it's like, because you don't want to go to college, study something for 4 years and be like, oh man, I didn't realize this was really what it was like. So if you get that chance while you're in high school or middle school to really get in contact with professionals, get into that field, that's something that's amazing and something that I think is really important.
Fantastic. Okay, Paul, go for it, please.
I guess I'd like to focus on this one word, which is motivation. So Aaron already touched base on that, which I agree with. I want policymakers to know that we students, we experience a lot in these days. Our experience isn't really similar to what people might think it is, considering that we're both, we're doing virtual learning nowadays, which is definitely really different. So I guess it would really help if students, no matter what age they're in, no matter their gender, sexuality, or like what or their background, it would really make a difference if someone's there to motivate them, to tell them that they've done a good job and that they can go further. They could break barriers, break stigmas, and potentially reach the dreams that they've always had.
Fantastic. So we've heard connections, internships, relationships, community, all of those things are really important messages to policymakers. How do we do that at scale, right? Martine, anything, Becca, you would add? Martine, from your perspectives, we heard internships. Becca, do you wanna, how do we expand those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I 100% agree with what Olivia was saying. I know for me personally, what I studied in college was actually not what I ended up doing, because I had such trouble breaking into STEM, just given where I grew up, being a female Latina, which is not super common in the IT industry. So I think it's super important to have more programs and make them more accessible to students to be able to try and just see what they like, what they want to do, and also discover how they can turn their passions into careers. And that's something that we really love to talk about during our STEM camp. So I think the more exposure we can provide and the easier we can make it for them, the more we can set them up for success to end up doing what they love.
Fantastic. Martine, I'm going to turn to you for any other words of wisdom you want to add for policymakers here. And I know that there's a poll that's going to pop up on people's screens for attendees. If you would do us a favor of filling that out at some point, that would be great. Martine, you have an important moment to use your voice to talk to policymakers as well. What do you think the one thing they should be doing?
Wow, just one, huh?
Well, okay, I'll start with one. We don't have another 3 hours.
No, I understand. Again, students, you guys are amazing. So what they've experienced and what Becca has shared comes at a cost. It just doesn't happen because we wish it into being. The logistical management, the facilitating, the connections, the networking, behind the scenes is a major, major lift for every individual experience. So whether it's an internship, whether it's taking a field trip out to a company or a work site, or whether it's bringing folks on the site, like the logistical management pieces are astronomical. And any support that we can get, we have what we call a work-based learning liaison. We have a full-time FTE on almost every high school in Oakland, whose only responsibility is managing everything that the students talked about. You can't ask a teacher to be a full-time teacher and to do all the networking and all the management it takes to make something like this happen. So funding to support work-based learning liaisons, funding to support pathway coaches, to get an English, a math, a science teacher to sit down and think about how can we create an integrated curriculum that lifts up the standards for each of our core curriculums, but at the same time is aligned with the theme of that career. It's not an easy task. It takes a lot of work. And so having pathway coaches who are experienced in doing this to support and coach our teachers and our schools at our school sites, those resources are necessary in order for link learning to work.
So thank you. And I know we're getting close to the end. So I wanted to say that to pull all these pieces together, the points that Mateen and Becca just made, and all of the last hour talking about how these amazing young people stay and are connected to community and their purpose and the people who are there for them. It's really worth it. To put in those additional partnerships and the resources that make it all happen. These are young people who I can't help, I'm sure everybody here is incredibly inspired by, and we leave this conversation really optimistic about our future because of each and every one of you. So want to just close and thanking everybody for being here with us today, for listening to the voices of the young people whose lives matter every day to our future as a state. And if everybody could just join me in giving them an incredibly virtual, whatever round of applause, please do. We are all really thankful for your candor, your voices, the inspiration that you provided. And for the audience, we'd really love to find ways to keep you connected to the young people. The Alliance team is here ready to help with those connections. And we all of us together today, welcome your questions, your comments, and really hope that you'll stay engaged with us on behalf of the young people and the educators and industry partners that make this work sing every day on behalf of young people. So thank you again for your time, your presence, your engagement. And I think there was certainly an inspiring 60 minutes to help us all move forward with the rest of our day and the rest of thinking about the future. So thank you all. We are getting closer, I think, to the day when every student has the ability to find and light their pathway to success in college and career and life. Thank you all very much for being here.